What's up, guys?
What's going on?
How are you, man?
Scott's here too. This is a party of legends. So I want to kind of kick things off, and something that got me so interested in this company was the story of how it was created and the fact they've gotten this far without any venture capital or assistance otherwise in that realm. Do you mind we can keep this casual, but I think everyone would love to hear the story of WAGMI Games and how it all came to be, basically.
Yeah, so before Scott. BS. Right. Before Scott, there was a tale that happened back in, I would say it was maybe the end of 2021. And it was right when the bull run was at its peak. And during that whole entire time, I actually was looking to get into a project in blockchain, into crypto. And it's so funny because I actually created an entire business plan for a completely different project that had to do with NFTs. And that's for another podcast. And maybe we'll invest in that after I blow up WAGMI. But it was funny because I was definitely all in on blockchain, on NFTs, when I realized that crypto had a utility, like NFTs, there was commerce happening. So to me, it was really a no-brainer to be able to say, okay, I want the next big thing in my career to be in this industry.
Wow.
So one of the things that I did is wound up getting into a kind of a pre-launch or a stealth launch and aped in to the tune of, I don't know, $20,000-$25,000 or something like that into this one project. And it wound up doing well for about 2 hours. And then it was just one of these things where it just couldn't get past a certain level. And it's like, okay, well, it's the bots. Maybe it's the bots. Maybe it's not.
I think we've all been in that situation.
Exactly.
If you've been in crypto long enough.
Come on, get past that. Well, it never did. But regardless, there was all this hype towards this project and wound up getting into a whale group on Telegram and meeting a bunch of people there. So after a few days, things were just not right. And just started actually having conversations with other people in the whale group. Saying, okay, well, what do we think's going on here? What do we think's going on there? The gossip that happens amongst, these whale groups and stuff like that. So after about a week or so, it seemed like there wasn't really any kind of coordination with that project at all. It was a shitcoin, right? And I think that they were trying to basically do the same thing that like GM did. Like GM just went to like $200 million market cap for no reason. And it was just one of those things. So what wound up happening is we found out that the person who's leading it didn't want to do it anymore. After a week, he was bored. Or didn't realize how much work is involved in actually doing a project like this. And it just so happened that he, according to him, did not know who the developer was, who had control over the marketing wallet, as well as the actual contract itself. Apparently, he was totally anon. So that being said, we were trying to save that project because we know marketing. So it was like myself and this turned out to be Chris, who's on the team. And we're like, well, we do marketing all the time. So why don't we see if we can take it over? But when we found out that we couldn't have control or nobody knew who had control, it seemed like it was just something that we couldn't ethically do. So what we decided to do is we were going to try to save the project, but instead of saving that project, we basically told that community, which, by the way, the community got up to 10, 15,000 people on Telegram.
That's a big community.
It was a huge community, and I'll tell you why we did what we did. We basically told the entire community, liquidate. This is a rug. Guys, nobody knows who's in charge of the contract. Nobody knows who's in charge of the marketing wallet. So here's what we're going to do. We're basically not going to sell anything that we had as almost a good faith down payment to say we want to start something different and we want to start something that has utility. Not a shit coin, but something that actually has substance. And it just so happened it was myself, Chris, Lewis, and Khalid who became the core four of the project.
We all met. I know it was that core group.
Yes, we met in that project, and the four of us decided. It dwindled it down from there was like 10 people in this other Telegram to about 4 people that were seriously like, let's do this the right way. So at that point, because there were so many people in that community, there was already it's expensive to
build a community. 100%. I think it's super underrated.
Underrated how expensive it is to build a community.
Right.
So we felt that the community was already built, and by showing that good faith of ethics, saying we're not going to sell anything, you guys just do it. We're telling you ahead of time that this is a rug. That basically we felt that we could probably take some people from that community with us. And we did.
And it's my theory that every single person in the 8 billion people in the world are they've all played a game of some sort. And so your bet was essentially that, look, a more majority or a large majority like games.
100%. So the way it went down was, myself and Lewis started having conversations, and Lewis told the team, he goes, hey, listen, I believe that mobile is the way. He's like, I think that we should do like a tower defense game. I've been thinking about this. He's like, I've been consulting with another company back and forth. I think I've got the contacts for the devs to actually help with development of the game.
Yeah.
And he actually started showing me a couple of the concepts that he was thinking about. And the original concept was like a World War II battle game.
Okay.
And I looked at it and I'm like, I'm not feeling that.
Yeah.
And it just so happened.
So it's like a personal taste thing.
Well, to me, I was like, I don't know if I can get behind that.
Right.
But I just spent the whole day in Hollywood Studios, in Star Wars land, hanging out in the Millennium Falcon and Tatooine and all this stuff. And I'm like, sci-fi.
Sci-fi.
I'm like, it has to be sci-fi. And once I said that, Lewis is like, oh, well, now you're speaking my language. It was almost like he already knew the answer before anything. But
he's like, I already had a whole, lore written.
It's funny you mentioned that. So anyways,
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So when I mentioned that, I was like, sci-fi is I think what we should do, but their style of game, I'm like, you know games better than I do. And he's like, oh, for sure. So then at that point, we decided to do that, and we decided to use the term WAGMI, and that's the acronym for We're All Going to Make It.
Right.
And of course, that was the acronym during the bull run and all that stuff.
Of course.
But what we decided to do is we decided to change the narrative to make WAGMI a part of the actual story of WAGMI Defense, which essentially is We're All Going to Make It against the aliens.
Got it.
Right.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So
I like that.
our mantra is we're hoping that nobody remembers the WAGMI acronym from crypto and only knows WAGMI from the game.
Wow.
That's our vision.
So I kind of love the deep roots, even though that hasn't come out in the Web3 crypto world.
Yep.
And you guys could almost be one of the early predecessors of seeing the trend of bringing masses into Web3 through a game. And so that, I think maybe you were onto something, but this was well before it was a kind of an assumption that gaming was going to be the thing. You had DeFi, you had everything else going on in crypto, and you guys chose a game.
Well, it was utility of the game that made sense to me for the NFTs, and it wasn't the play to earn part of it. And listen, we still used some of that terminology play to earn because it was during the bull run and people were like, oh my God, it's the next play to earn. But we were looking at the ones that were actually coming out. We're like, oh, it's a Ducky and Bunny jumper game that they paid $15,000 on Fiverr for. And literally that was the roadmaps of all these bullshit NFT projects that were coming out and all these awful tokens that were coming out.
Right.
And we're just like, wow, we're going to do this right.
Okay.
I don't know anything. I don't know anything better than to do something like 5-star and to do it right. So if I'm going to put my name behind it, we're going to do it right. And it just so happens I was really lucked out with the core four as far as, Chris, Lewis, and Khalid. Khalid is just a whiz at the tech stuff. Okay. Chris is just amazing with, marketing, and Lewis, I mean, this is his vision, right? This is his vision as far as just the entire game, the IP, the story, the lore, the characters, what they're supposed to look like, all of it. I mean, it's just amazing having a first, I have a front row seat to seeing what I believe is greatness.
Sometimes at 3 a.m., I'll get a text with a new map, and he's like, hey, Zach, what do you think of the map? I'm like, I mean, everything he produces is so amazing. And so, Scott, when did you kind of come into the storyline here?
Yeah, so, I mean, I've been on crypto. I was doing crypto for about a year before I met these guys, and someone from my community, from my YouTube channel, was like, hey, you should reach out to WAGMI. They're building a video game. It looks really cool. So, okay, great. And, at this point, me and my partner, Costas, have talked to so many devs, so many teams, and it was all the same. It was all just focused around, when Lambo, when Pump, shilling the token, shilling the NFTs, and we didn't really want to associate ourselves with projects that were more focused on the profit-making side versus the actual business Like, okay, but what is your business? What is your actual roadmap? How are you going to achieve your roadmap? Like, what is the game? When is it going to be ready? You know, everyone was like, hey, we'll pay you all this money to cover this token on your YouTube channel. I'm like, okay, but like, what's the utility? There is none. No, I'm sorry, pass. I don't want to deal with that.
Wow.
And when we jumped on board, we jumped on our first phone call, me and Costas with the Core 4, you know, after like 15, 20 minutes, I was texting Costas in our private chat on Telegram, and I was like, these guys know what they're doing. You know, like just like Ian spoke about earlier, these guys, the Core 4 came from traditional business. These guys know how to not only build a business, but to also scale it, know how to do marketing, know how to build a foundation to where you can build bigger on top of it over time.
Like more than just a game.
More than just a game and
business.
An IP and a business.
Yeah,
Right?
you know,
a brand.
Right.
A lot of the projects that we had spoken to up until that point had a good idea, but they had no idea how to build it into a scalable business, which obviously you need to have, especially during times like this, which is why the bear market just shook out pretty much 90% of the competition, and a lot of that competition being some of the games and some of the franchises that people thought were going to do really well. All of a sudden, they're worth nothing, and the community's gone, right? So, and then it also really clicked for me. I mean, up until that point, because I'm a gamer myself, I've always wanted to own my in-game assets. I've always wanted to own things individually versus having to sell the entire account, right? And so when these guys showed me the game and the concept, and then started talking about, hey, the characters are going to be NFTs. They're going to be very, inexpensive, like $5 to $8. You can level them up, then you can resell them on the secondary marketplace, trade them amongst your friends, trade them with your clan, right? Then everything started. I'm like, this is true utility, and like you just said earlier, recognizing that gaming was probably gonna be what brought mass adoption to crypto.
Sick, yeah.
And it's like up until that point, I think I already knew that gaming was gonna be
Right, because you're a gamer.
Yeah, but until I met these guys and we started working together, then it's like, oh, okay, this really solidified that, hey, gaming is what will bring mass adoption to crypto space, NFT space.
Yeah, and I know you guys, and I've spent enough time with you to know how close the team operates, having fun, but holding yourselves to such a high standard. I've witnessed it. Random question, like how long did it take for that Core 4 plus you and Costas to you're like, boom, this is it, this is the right team? Like how long did it take for you guys to kind of click as a group?
I feel like after the first month, me and Costas first came on board as an influencer and content creator, and then we just worked extra hard because we really believed in it. And by the end of the month, so Costas' skill set, I mean, I feel like he finally found where he was supposed to be.
His calling.
Yeah. He found his 100% found his calling. He's basically our project manager. He manages all the assets. He manages Cubics. He's like, we need this. Like, he loves it. And we have been doing my fitness channel for the last 12 years together, and he's always been really good at taking all the things I have in my head and organizing it. And then he basically did that with WAGMI, and now we have this amazing Wikipedia, and we have all this amazing roadmap and a clear vision of exactly what needs to get done. And because of that, it's allowed the rest of the core team to do what they do best, right? And so I think the synergy was felt even within the first week or two.
100%.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that
I would say
know where you're doing that.
It was immediate.
Right.
I mean, it was immediate because here was the thing. Like we felt so Scott was the very first person that we reached out to actually be an influencer. And there was a reason for that, is because I told the team, I said, there's no reason to hire any influencer until we have something of substance.
Right.
Until we have a product, until we've proven ourselves. So what we did is, before we reached out to even Scott, who was our first person that we reached out to as an influencer, it was really just, let's go ahead and have it so that when we do have conversations with influencers, it's not just straight up, I'm going to take your money and who gives a shit. It's, listen, we actually want somebody to care about the project that is going to be almost more of an ambassador than an influencer. And that's what I wanted to do with this company. Yeah. So it was like we built it. And finally, when we got to the point where we could share bits and pieces of the first trailer, I said, now we're ready. Now we can show somebody that we are the real deal, that we're putting the time and effort and the money into it. And then at that point, we can have conversations as to where we're actually planning on going as opposed to where we think that we can go. And there's a huge difference with that. And honestly, that's why we waited to this point before we did fundraising.
It's a great point.
We wanted to get to the point where we actually were like, we've already built the game.
Right.
We've got the community.
Right.
We have the vision.
Right.
We have the team. Now it's like, great. Now we need just some help for external funding to take it from this level to this level that much quicker. But we've already built it, right? And it's proving it to ourselves and proving it to those around us to get the right team involved is something. It's a mantra that I pretty much have stated from the very beginning, even to the very first AMA with the very first Telegram voice chat, right? It was just one of those things where I'm like, we have to be able to make sure that people believe in what we're doing and we back it up with our work and the product. And that's essentially what we've done this entire time.
I think that really stood out to me because, I initially met as my neighbor. We golfed together, but we, met and talked about fundraising in the early days. But one of the things I think that shocked me so much was, having been investing in the space for 18 months in gaming and Web3, me nor none of my peers had seen a game, that had a mobile game of all things done pretty much within a reasonable time frame in app stores. I think it's just shocking people because the venture market just hasn't seen anything like it.
I think you can attribute that a lot to a lot of the games in the space focusing more on let's get hype versus let's shut the hell up and just build the game.
But I do think too, yes, and I also think you guys are sort of setting the tone for the Web3 gaming industry as far as working with legitimate content creators. And why the strategy I think has worked and why it's getting so much attention right now is, you are one of the few games in the space with a playable game at this scale for content creators to even make stuff about. So I think you hit it, and those are some of the things I like about your strategy.
Well, Scott can talk about the content creation in a second, but the one thing I want to mention real quickly is the fact that everybody slept on mobile because everybody thought you had to have a hype factor MMORPGs. Crypto is just this weird bubble where it's all about hype. And when you talk about, well, wait a minute, if you look at the statistics that more people spend money in mobile games than consoles and PC combined, why are you just focusing on something that is going to take you 5 to 7 years to build? And now you got to compete against
AAA
Call
games.
of Duty,
right?
You got to compete against all of these games that are so magnificent, right? And listen, there are so many amazing projects that are building.
Absolutely.
Right? And we are, we're part of the Mutable X family.
That's right.
We're over there supporting a lot of the different projects, and we want everybody to win in Web3. We don't feel like there's competition.
Right.
But we feel that the strategy to go to market for a lot of these brands are going to be, they don't understand how expensive it's going to be in order to get people onto these games, to pull them away from their AAA games.
Correct.
While we're focused on, and we are completely acceptance of our identity. We are a mobile gaming franchise, right?
Okay.
Now, granted, we have really cool graphics. Like, we're taking graphics to the next level as far as, the other Web 2 games that are out there.
Right.
But understanding that there's more people that are willing to double click their phone on the go or in their bed or on the couch while their girlfriend's watching some bad reality TV show and passing some time than there is the actual true gamers that are sitting there in front of a PC or in front of an Xbox that are sitting there and grinding. There's more money in mobile. There is. And we feel that most of the projects in crypto have slept on it. They just went straight hype factor. And we are just in a position right now that we are one of the very few games that are on the app stores. And our strategy as far as mass adoption is completely different than all the rest of them.
I think that's something I want to talk about briefly, right? Because I don't think a lot of people know that, it's not like you guys made the game, Ian and Scott, right? You worked with a very high-end gaming company to help build the game, which is, for a lot of people don't know this that aren't experienced gaming investors, but that's how most independent games are built, period. And a major trend happening right now are, big influencers or content creators like Scott, they run out of content. So they're starting to build what, in my view, is the next version of what AAA means and mass adoption of games and where all the money is going to be made in the space. So I wanted to just say that. And you guys have kind of taken this like Web 2 approach to game development, which I think is a very positive thing. And then you also understand not only, Web 3 marketing, community building, which you just spoke about, but like traditional Web 2, you're aware at least of Web 2 user acquisition techniques, right? And tactics. So I think those are that mixture is pretty rare. And I've seen mostly every deal in the gaming space like last year. So
it comes down to it comes down to, like, you need to go after the casual gamer, because even the guys that are hardcore playing on Xbox or PC or PlayStation, they still have casual games on their phone for when they don't feel like sitting at their desk playing.
That's the games I play.
Yeah, I'll literally play Call of Duty with my friends for a few hours and then go downstairs and my wife is watching one of her stupid shows that I want to watch. And I need a casual game,
yeah, dude.
So I'm still hanging out, but I'm playing a game on my phone because I don't want to watch Love Island. I just don't care.
Right.
I'm
with you.
And the ironic thing about that is I won't even be paying attention to Love Island, but I'll still know more about what's going on in the damn show than my wife does, who's watching the show because she's on her TikTok. And it's like everyone can relate to that, but. The casual game, like everybody is a little bit of a casual gamer, and there's a lot of games, like a lot of companies I think went straight for like FPS, first person shooters, and first person shooters, and they're great, but like my wife can't do a mouse and keyboard and she can't do Xbox controller, right? But she can drag and drop on her phone and play WAGMI Defense all day long.
Yeah.
Who does not have one of these on their body at all time?
Yeah, or Android.
I don't care what country you're in.
Right.
I mean, we were talking to somebody in Mexico, or actually Peru. Lewis was talking to somebody in Peru about the games. He's like, oh yeah, I got an iPhone 13.
Yeah.
Wow. And by the way, I've made a great relationship with the people in Africa. And by the way, they all play mobile. So I'm very bullish around your game in Latin America and Africa and all over the world. That's what to me stands out as a huge opportunity for you guys.
Yeah. Even India too. Like I've been talking to IndieGG.
Right. They're great people. Manish and those guys. Yeah.
They have so many people that are playing games, and the majority of them are playing mobile.
Right.
It's an easier point of entry for them too, price wise.
100%. And if you think about it, what we're doing is you do not need crypto. You do not need a wallet. All you need is either an email or a social login.
Did not know
and
that.
You can play the game.
Okay.
Because we're setting up a custodial wallet on behalf of every single user that comes in.
Right.
So even if they're not in crypto, no problem. You like to play the game, set up an account. My name is X, here's a link, and now I'm in. Great, set up your username. Good, you want to play against the computer, you want to play demo, you can play demo all day long.
That's great.
Right. When you want to level up your cards, you can go purchase them. How are you going to purchase them? Double click your phone. Great.
Pay.
Now you own your digital collectibles. Did you know that? If you want to trade them, you can.
Wow. That's going to be wild to see people react to that aren't in our world.
Well, let me ask you a question.
I can't wait.
Was there anything that you didn't understand?
No.
Did I mention NFTs, non-fungible tokens? You got to have this crypto in order to have the unlocking of the...
Yeah, exactly.
It's all as far as I'm concerned. We're WAGMI, which is an acronym. There's another acronym. Keep it simple, stupid.
I like that.
Anybody who doesn't keep it simple, stupid is going to lose. Period. Look at Apple. The most complicated thing in the world that's ever been invented really is this iPhone. And look how simple it is.
It's beautifully simple.
Right?
I'm an Apple guy.
That's it.
But it comes to me in VC pitches all the time. The minute you hear one token, then two tokens, and then this, I kind of stop listening. That's my style of venture capital. But, I think you guys have made a game for the masses, 100%. Which I think is the main interest. And if Web3 doesn't kind of wrap their head around that, there's going to be a lot of, deaths of companies coming if they don't figure out how to change the tune.
Listen,
so that's why we're here, though.
There's going to be niches.
Yeah, sure.
Right? And if you want to take the identity of being a niche crypto game and being the best, amazing niche crypto game, cool. Then that means that you're only talking to
Like
1% of the
people.
4%
Yeah.
of the world.
30, 40, 50,000 people maybe.
I mean, how many users are there like
Not
daily
many.
that they say with crypto games? Like 100,000, 200,000, 500,000 at the most. Maybe 1 million
Right,
active
max.
wallets at the most. How many people are in the United States alone? 360 million, right?
Right.
So, I mean, you're talking about like such a minute
Mm-hmm.
community that we're all in our bubble talking to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? When we go on our spaces, it's like, hey, Web3 is awesome, and we got to do this, and we got to do that, we got to do that. We're all talking to each other, right?
Yeah. But no one, this is a...
Everyone on
Right.
the outside doesn't know anything about anything we're talking about.
Right. I mean, that's why I'm excited that you're working with Spawn Point, and we're launching YouTube on next Tuesday. We're launching TikTok thereafter, and your content will be reaching, those markets as well. And I think it's pretty visionary of you guys to want to work with a company like Spawn Point to try to move that along.
Well, because
Yeah.
the vision is to get people to play games as opposed to buying expensive NFTs.
Right.
What were you saying today on the call today about the shit game?
Yeah, about Dookie Dash.
Yeah.
This guy, Penguins, you watched the, yeah, so he has a whole 9-minute video talking about Dookie Dash, and he's showing how you have to have your sewer pass, you have to have your Bored Ape, and he's like, they're literally selling you shit, and people are spending thousands of dollars for it, and they're laughing at you. Like, he was just kind of going off on it. But that's the state of...
I'm calling it like luxury gaming. I'm trying to coin that term.
You're being nice.
Well, but I bought one just to play, and then I sold it right away, just so I could make content and show people.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I think it didn't really vibe well with my community because it's a little crazy. The price to play is insane.
Well, the point
I don't
is,
like it that much.
The
but
point
it's
is
luxury
though,
gaming.
Yeah.
Well, the point is that guy is a Web 2 guy, and he's laughing at the Web 3 industry. He's laughing at Web 3 games and NFTs because, and the video already has like 8 million views or something.
Yeah.
Because that's how people feel. They feel the same way he does. So you're literally fighting this uphill battle if you're trying to take this approach. Like, sure, Dookie Dash and Board Yacht Club has a lot of visibility in the space, but to the outside world, to Ian's point, the outside world doesn't give a shit. Literally. They don't care. They think it's dumb.
Yep.
So how are you going to convince them to play a game with ownable assets? Well, you just say, hey, download it and play.
Right.
And do what you normally do. Like in the games on my phone, I normally do microtransactions for the things I want.
Correct.
So I would just do the same thing on a Web3 game, and I wouldn't know any difference.
Yes. Correct. Were you going to say something? No.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I appreciate what Bored Ape Yacht Club has done.
100%.
I appreciate what all of the amazing NFT communities have done. But what they've done is, it's really just, all the land sales, right? And all the expensive NFTs. There's only a itty bitty small segment of the world that gives a shit.
100%.
Nobody else cares. And really, it's at this point, it's, oh my God, I wish I had that. Right now, it's almost like a Louis Vuitton. Where's your purse? It's almost like the Louis Vuitton, right? Where it's like, if you're in, let's say, India, or if you're in Brazil or Peru, and somebody had the Louis Vuitton there, like, oh my God, I probably will never have that in the world. Why the hell would you have a game
with that dynamic?
Yeah. Right? And I hope that they prove me wrong moving forward.
I think I have a crazy prediction. My bet is that a year from now, one of these collections, blue chip, whether it's, a DGen collection, which I think are super cool, or blue chip, with their IP ending up in your game one way or another.
It's possible, sure.
That's a random prediction,
Yep.
but that's where I see the world heading.
Yeah.
Well,
we're open
They're
to
going
that.
to need you because, again, gaming is the root of the success of Web3 because everyone's a gamer. So anyways, that's a random prediction.
Well, but
see
I
what
think
happens.
it's a good prediction because that's how a lot of the conversations I have with other families within the Immutable X family, other games within the Immutable X family, or other token projects that I've talked to, they have communities. And it's like, hey, maybe they didn't bring the best utility to their NFT, but if we take that NFT that they already have and put some utility to it in our game,
correct.
Now that community will come play our game, and now it's a synergistic relationship.
Yes.
So, yeah,
That's the future.
I think you're right. I think a lot of these projects are going to look hey, how can we bring more utility to our NFT collection to make it more valuable? And that's exactly what it's going to be.
Because it's like, how did Lil Baby, the famous rapper, kind of become Lil Baby? He made albums and collabed with Drake and all sorts of other artists. And I think that's the marketing thesis of how games can come to market in our world. And then you've got all the other Web 2 stuff. But I think you guys are thinking about it great.
It's funny.
Go ahead.
I use a similar analogy because I like to watch movies. So it's like late 90s, early 2000s. It was, Ben Stiller, Will Ferrell, Owen Wilson, Vince Vaughn, all in the same movies all the time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, if this guy had a movie, you would go see it because he would have at least one or two of the crew.
Buddies, yeah.
And that was, how long did that last? Like probably 8 or 9 years.
I know.
And I mean, they still do it now.
That's smart. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, if you
I'm
think
gonna
about
use
it, if you think about it too, there's going to be a lot that needs to happen for people to actually then, once they're in games, because even our strategy, to get them into the game, to get them playing, they're owning something that they didn't even know that they own. How do I then trade it?
Right.
And then at that point, getting them into the ecosystem of the secondary market. The more games that are introduced, once the people accept that there is a secondary market, and I like to call like GameStop or a marketplace in Web3 like the eBay of gaming, right? That's how I envision a secondary market, right?
I'm going to use that to explain to other
100%.
people.
It's like the eBay of gaming. It's like I have something that I think it's worth something. I'm going to put it up for sale, and if somebody wants to buy it, they are.
Dude, that's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
So what that is that takes out tokenomics. That takes out play to earn.
Right.
That takes out having to have a gated NFT. And what does that do? What does that do? It creates a true sustainable supply and demand economy that if your game is successful, there are going to be ways that people are going to say, I would like to go ahead and get that character at that level, or be able to say, all right, I don't have that special edition digital collectible. I really want it. I really want to flex it every single time I play this game. I'll just go buy it.
I care more about my digital identity, to be honest with you, than my physical one. All my nice stuff's on the internet, frankly.
You don't need as much space.
As crazy as that sounds.
I'm running out of space for my pops. You need to start going digital.
but anyways, my point there was, yes, as many collaborations we can do in Web3 games that are willing to say, all right, great, we will collaborate. We'll put our character in your game or a mode or vice versa. It just is going to give more exposure for those who do win over those in Web 2 to say there is an entire world that why would I bother in Web 3? And I think that's the ethos of what we're trying to achieve, right? The ethos is, why would you play a game in Web 2 that you don't own anything when you can own something in Web 3?
That's what I think is a key core component that stuck with me over the last couple of years in gaming and Web 3 is ownership. To me, that's the biggest part and what I find. And I've been talking to like some of my experts about it, and we're kind of aligning this consensus around what Web3 actually means for a game, and that's exactly what you said.
Yeah. And I think if we just keep it simple.
Right. So
just keep it simple, right? Have a fun game that you can play. Don't require all the weird stuff that people don't understand.
What have you guys done? I've been spending time on Twitter Spaces and talking about how to build communities. Like, what have been your growth hacks? Like your best growth hacks? You guys are experts in doing that.
Well, you answer that.
Yeah.
Just running a check on everything. This is sick, by the way.
It's a great conversation.
Actually, I love it.
And this is going to show really well. Yeah, we're rolling. We're at 35 minutes in.
Perfect.
Maybe go 10 more minutes. We can take a break.
We can go as long as we want.
All right, cool. However long as you guys want to go.
Honestly, I'm also learning a shitload.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I guess restate the question. Yeah. You guys have grown a massive community. A lot of people reach out to me wondering how to do it as a VC. And I'm kind of done my own on Twitter, and it's still small, but that's a very Web3 lesson or skill. What have been, I love talking to founders about their best growth hacks that, I'm talking if you're averaging 50 followers a day, like what were your days that hit 200, 300, 100, whatever it was that clicked with your community? I think people would love to hear that.
Yeah, so to me, it has to be organic.
Okay.
It has to be organic because if you're paying for it, it's complete BS. Like, for example, our tweets get more engagement with, I think we have maybe 17,000 people on our Twitter. We have more engagement than if you look at all of these other
100%.
projects that have 100, 150,
Agreed.
200,000.
Same.
So what does that look like to them? They look stupid. Honestly, it looks stupid.
It looks like a dead project.
It looks like a dead project that you have 200,000 followers, but yet you only get 15 likes to an engagement. The other thing is, Scott, how many WAGMI Wednesdays have we missed?
0.
Yep.
Wow.
For like over a year now.
You know what I read? Consistency is key for the content of the best NFT projects and gaming projects. And you're the one doing it.
Well, the reason why even our floor price for our, if you look at our token chat and you look at our Genesis NFT collection, the floor price has been very steady for the last year during the bear market because every single week we might not have like jaw-dropping alpha, but we always have something, either a game update or an event that we're doing or a collaboration. Now that the beta's out, I'm consistently doing, you know, like battle
Streams
royales
every Tuesday.
Streams. Yeah, like hey, come play, you know, bring the entire community. We even did a battle royale during one of our Twitter spaces one time. That was a lot of fun.
Okay.
You know, gaming is about community building. And so something that myself and Ian do very well is, like, we try to actively join other Twitter spaces. And when we do come up to talk, we don't just start talking about WAGMI. Like, we like, hey, if we're here to talk about just gaming in Web3, we try to keep it broad until the host is like, oh, it looks like you have a game. Tell us about it. Then we'll talk about our game. But I think, you know, people recognize when you're being organic and they recognize when you're being too pushy and too hypey. So I would say the best way to organically grow, you have to put yourself out there.
Yeah, you do.
And even if you're only getting 1 like or 2 likes, like for example, when I first started my YouTube channel back in 2009, you'll appreciate this. Now over 3 million subscribers, my fitness channel. Literally every day I was uploading a new video, and then I would spend like 5 or 6 hours, and I'd go to video 1 and I'd answer every unanswered comment. And I'd go through every video up until I had about 40 videos on the channel. Every day. Some days it'd be like 6 hours of just going back, answering every comment. And we do a lot of that on our Twitter too.
Yeah.
Like, just reply to people.
I know it.
Like, if you're not replying to your community, why should they care about you if you don't care about them?
Correct.
Yeah, I think it's transparency. Transparency, and the worst thing you can do is be silent.
Right.
Like, you just constantly have to be able, even if it's a regurgitation of maybe the same content, well, guess what? Maybe some people saw that. Maybe
they didn't.
They didn't.
Correct.
And honestly, your community members are okay seeing things twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the law of sevens in marketing. You have to actually put something out there 7 times before something registers in the human psyche. Like, that's the law of sevens in marketing. So listen, you can literally put out the same thing over and over and over 7 times in a row, and then finally somebody will be like, oh yeah, I remember, that's that WAGMI game.
Yeah.
I wonder what it's about. Right? And if you just think about it from a marketing standpoint, understand that there's psychology behind it, and then be able to be as transparent as possible. I had no idea that being the CEO of this company was going to have so much public exposure to myself.
Oh, yeah.
Which is weird in crypto because everybody hides behind their PFP and is doxed.
And I think everyone's coming out, or they're trying to come out docs, right? I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at every single, but I mean, even there are a few, but
I guess you're right.
It's still like, even people in the communities.
You're right.
Like, I don't want anybody to know who I am.
You're
It's just like, okay, well, we had to take the leap of faith and be like, you know, as our lawyer said, we're not doing anything spicy.
Right.
So therefore, okay, well, it's no different than if I was a CEO of a public company that had to be speaking all of the time. So I just basically took that approach moving forward with this project, and having Scott here just makes my life so much easier.
Of course.
But yeah, it's really just trying to be out there. And I can tell you that, you know, guys like Chris, guys like Costas, Khalid, Lewis, they're very active in the Discord and Telegram.
Okay.
So really, if anybody comes in asking questions, either our community members answer it, or one of the core 4 of this project comes in and answers it.
Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, you come into our projects, and if you're like, hey, you know, I've got a legitimate question,
It will
nine
get
times
answered.
out of 10, either a community member or a core team member is going to answer that question.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I like it when I get DMs from people from our community who, like, they'll ask a question about the token or like the NFTs, or maybe they didn't understand something. It makes me really happy when I do get those DMs on Twitter, because I like knowing that they feel comfortable enough to send it, knowing that I'll respond.
Right.
Here's a funny story. So last week we had Khalid and Costas, who Scott and I, we talk for a living,
Yeah.
right? Like, this is what we do. But Khalid he's our
He's a
dev.
developer.
So,
Yeah.
and Costas is definitely, he's Greek, so he's got a heavy Greek accent,
Right.
and it loves to talk with us, but when it comes down to actually, like, public
space.
yeah, he's like, no, I'm good. I don't care to, right? So last week, we're like, okay, they wanted to do some cool deciphering of a tweet, and it's all mysterious, and I'm like, okay, guys, that was your idea. It's all you. Like, this Wagmi Wednesdays is all you guys.
Oh, great.
So basically, we said, okay, you guys take it
handle
over.
it. Yeah.
We said take it over, and literally it was like, for about 5 or 6 minutes, it was just this awkward back and forth with Costas
So
and
awkward.
Khalid.
It's like so quiet, and like them, like Costas would talk and then it'd be quiet for like 20 seconds,
Right.
and then Khalid would talk. Like, it was so awkward.
I mean, it was so awkward. So anyways, we're over here just because we're so close with each other, and
It's fine, yeah.
none of us can really insult each other.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we're ragging on them at the Twitter space, and we're having a great time. And most of the community was just like, "Oh my god, that was the best Twitter space because it was so funny."
Yeah.
And I had
It's
somebody,
authentic.
from the community come to me and DM me and says, "Hey, I love everything that you guys are doing, but as a CEO, I really felt like it was disrespectful how you were treating Khalid and Costas." And I'm like, okay. So what I did is I just responded. I said, "Thank you for your feedback. We're all really tight, but I'll make sure to take your comment in consideration." And I forwarded the comment to Costas and Khalid. I go, "You guys are dead for the next Twitter space." I'm like, I'm gonna rip you guys a new asshole. No, but see, that's the thing. It's just like, we have fun. We're out there a lot, but we're completely accessible. And that's the other thing that we're constantly talking about is, how amazing is it that if you really wanted to talk to the chief gaming officer of a platform, or a CEO, or a guy like Scott, who's super famous and started the actual fitness YouTube channel, that literally you can come in and have a conversation with any of us if you wanted to. And that, to me, is the ethos of building a community.
Great responses.
Yeah.
And I think these are hacks that are going to be super valuable to you and others as you kind of contribute to the space once you guys have, made it down the line. So, yeah, I know you guys are constantly working hard. I mean, what tooling are you guys using to stay in touch? I mean, every time Ian and I golf on Fridays usually, and he's always pulling out his Slack, showing me like the latest gameplay, and it's exciting to just be around that kind of energy. So I see it, at least from my side, you guys, hard work and stuff, but how do you manage all the apps? Like, how are you guys communicating? How often?
Just it's
nonstop, right?
Every
It's
app
nonstop.
is just in the same folder
Yeah.
on my phone, so that when I open the folder, it says like 2 messages here, 8 messages there. 5.
Yeah. So we use Notion for project management to keep us organized. We have Slack channels with companies like Immutable X, with Cubics. That's our main focus as far as communication there. We speak mostly on Telegram in our groups.
That's like,
and then Discord is something that is we're trying to migrate over to Discord, but the dark forces of Telegram keep us.
It's like my
pulling us
business
back
email,
in.
dude. It's like,
Email's awful.
I know.
And email
no
gets
one
lost.
answers email anymore.
No, email gets lost, and to me, it's a good old text message, and sometimes you just gotta pick up the phone,
That's
have
right.
a call.
Cool.
So, but yes, and then there's Google Meets that
Gmeets. I think people are like curious, just like I'm trying to cover some different stuff because they're like, I get DMs, they're like, well, can you ask people like what tool? Because everyone's curious about efficiencies and all that kind of stuff. So, anyways.
Yeah, Blue Send I think is now we're using for social, which basically syndicates stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Great.
Yeah, we've not focused on the milestones of followers, right? Because to us, that's just organically going to grow. And the more followers we have, if they're following us, it's because they're interested, not because we've paid for them.
Right.
So our milestones have been more of along the lines of sharing the progress of the game and, all of the different catalysts that we've had, as opposed to just thinking about, well, let's get up to 10,000, then we get X amount of likes. I will say that video is definitely, people like video more than stills. I will say that your random shots, like when, we'll take a picture together on the golf course, those blow up.
Yeah.
Because people want to know who is part of the projects, and that they're real people, and that it's just not a bunch of dicks that are being arrogant and stuff like that. So yeah, there's no necessary catalyst as far as like followers or anything like that. It's really just constantly putting out content. Some is going to get less engagement than others. The other thing is we literally have been building in a bear since we've started. This is a bear market.
Not only have we been building in a bear, but you can time all the shitty things that have happened in the bear around things that we've launched.
Black Swan events.
Like literally, the biggest news is tomorrow, and then like the next day, FTX bombs.
Luna. Dude, there were like so many in last year.
So that's been one of those things that even, and what we've done is we're not going to let the market dictate the progress of the project.
And it shouldn't,
And we pretty much have, when we were launching our Genesis NFT collection, we're like, okay, that is going to be on this date.
I will say I was on this crazy space with Gabe Layden. Gabe was saying video is basically the future of everything, especially related to content creators, because there's going to be a lot of doubt around what you're seeing on social media are real people. Random sidebar, but it blew my mind thinking about it. To your point, the reason why our photos blow up is because they know we're real.
Yeah.
And that is a very serious conclusion of what we've discovered just by putting out content. It's a crazy thing.
A lot of people, what you see on social media isn't true. It's all fake it till you make it type stuff. So in showing consistency with video or photos and things that we're doing, and if we're at an event, showing the event,
we're there,
if we're speaking on stage, like, hey, we're here, it's all real. And so when you bring that realism to a project that has just been building consistently in the bear market for the last year, again, like seeing the battle royales and seeing me and 5 other creators talking and playing the game, like, this is real. They're not just saying, "Oh, the game is coming." No, it's here. It's playable.
It's bad.
It's like you just saw.
Web3 game VCs should play more games.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? That's a spicy take, but it's true. The other thing, I'm like blinking. Whatever. I think it's a crazy point, and I think we should keep. Oh, here's what I was gonna say. I will restart that recording. I talk to a lot of games right now that are holding back game releases, updates, drops, waiting there for the next bull to randomly pop out of nowhere.
It's going to be too late.
That is against any advice I would give. You have to keep building. And, some people say, well, timing's everything in gaming. Well, if you have a game people like, they will tell their friends, and that's how you get big. You have a lot of games right now holding back on marketing, holding back on telling people about what they're doing, hiding in their closet, and I think it's the wrong thing to be doing right now.
One of the VCs that I was talking to, I was like, yeah, listen, we're going to be one of the first games not only in the app stores, but like Ian was talking about earlier, you'll be able to just double-click Apple Pay credit card to buy the in-game purchases.
Unreal.
And he said to me, he goes, well, I actually know of a few other games that are doing the same thing, but they're trying to do it more stealthily. And I responded and I said, well, I think that's dumb because we just did a comic book on GameStop and did over $200,000 in sales because we have established IP. So what makes you think that just because it's coming from a big studio that they're going to instantly have this following? They haven't
never done it before.
You know what I mean? It's like, where's the groundwork? Where's the established IP? Where's the story? Where's the excitement?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? We've coined the phrase "build and bear, bask and bull." Everyone who is over there waiting for the bull run, we'll be waving to them because we were actually building in the bear and actually getting So it's the same authenticity, it's the organicness, right? And at the same time, because we have the strategy that we are not reliant on the market, tokenomics, tokens, market pumps, charts, all that stuff, that literally we can go to the App Store and we can say, okay, our KPIs for consumer acquisition are geared towards $3 and $5 in this country. Therefore, let's get them in. Let's establish all the live ops that need to be established. Let's get the people purchasing stuff in the game and then teach them the secondary market afterwards, later. It doesn't matter what the market does. Where that was the point in the beginning of this conversation. The majority of the Web3 gaming studios are reliant on NFTs and tokenomics. They are just appeasing to a minute group. Now, granted, will they make more money than we will? Very possibly. They might be right by waiting. But we are looking at this, it doesn't matter if it's a bull or bear. It's a gaming franchise. And therefore, if we can establish, the sooner we can establish ourselves and get a game out and get people playing it and having fun and spreading the word and having advertisement money continuously being funneled back in to get more people to play the game and then teaching people about the secondary market of collectibles that they can trade on their own and having cool things like Fusion where you have to get to a level 4, but if you don't want to grind to a level 4, you can go buy it there and go ahead and do it here. All of the cool things that the entire ethos of NFT gaming is, we're not waiting for the market. We're not going to do it because we don't know when the market's going to turn. It could be mid next year. We could be talking the halvening of Bitcoin.
We've all been saying it could be 2 years till anyone gets more cash. So,
right? And if you listen to Alec Becker, I mean, he thinks the world's going to end and get out of the United States.
My last question is, have you guys ever taken an idea from your community and baked it in the game, just out of curiosity?
Yes.
That's amazing.
So here, I'll tell the story. The very first release of the very first map that we ever did. You were with us at that point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. It was, and this is a hard thing as a brand, as an artist, as anybody to put out a piece of art and expect nothing but praise. When you get the little bit of backlash, it's painful.
It hurts.
Right? And it just so happens I was a theater major, I did the band, I know about rejection all day long. And of course, seeing some things, trying things and it not working and then just moving forward. Like my stomach is pretty iron when it comes to stuff like that. But it was the very first time that we put out anything like the first map, right? This is a big deal. So we put it out in our community and it was, oh my God, it's amazing. Oh my God, it's amazing. And this one guy, I think he's Australian, he came back and he goes, dude, why is this like this? And all of a sudden, a couple of our core team members, I could see them get self-defensive. I immediately reeled everybody back and I said, hang on a second. What did he just say? Is he right? You know what? He was right.
Wow.
So what we did is we said, you know what? You're right. And we went right back to Cubics and told Cubics on the very first map that we ever did, go fix this.
Right.
And guess what? They did, and when we re-released it, that same guy goes, it looks amazing.
Wow.
And we have literally been doing that along the way. In fact, our entire test flight has been nothing but community telling us, hey, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see this. This doesn't work. What about changing the UI? What about the flow as far as, building your deck to getting to it? And honestly, they're all right. Now, whether they're right for the masses, we have to test that.
Yeah, well, you guys are going to figure it out.
We take 100% of all the community feedback.
Wow.
And we say, okay, can we make it better? Are they right? And the answer is usually we can make it better.
Boom. I love that. That's what Web3 is all about.
Yeah.
While I have you guys, is there anything else you guys wanted to have on cam while we're here and set up?
Anyways, we just want to really appreciate Zach having us and being able to film us, and Nate, appreciate everything that you're doing in Spawn Point. Spawn Point is going to be on point as far as one of the actual content creators within Web3, and we appreciate working with you guys, and thanks for spending the time for us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, man. And here's some game footage for you guys to take a hold of and do what you do best, mash it up.
And guess what? WAGMI Defense coming to an app store near you.
You heard it here first. See ya.